Hey everybody, I'm Pastor AJ Houseman and welcome to 10 Foot Pole, a podcast to dig deeper into aspects of the Bible that get glossed over or totally ignored in most preaching. The Bible has a lot of parts that are racy, uncomfortable, and sometimes downright horrifying. Let's talk about it. Welcome to Season 5, Episode 2. Our guest for today is Pastor Laura Swanson, who is at Living Springs Lutheran Church in Columbia, South Carolina. I'm so excited to have you in the same state again. It's like so delightful.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, like, I'm not supposed to be here, but like, we both ended up in the South, and it's great.
Yeah, we both just kind of came.
Well, you're from here, so like,
around. Yeah.
So that makes more sense for you.
Florence. Yeah, that's when people are asking, like, why did you come back? I have family here.
Yeah. Well, you know, in the days when we were in seminary together, if you would have asked me if I was going to end up in South Carolina, I would have been like, absolutely not. So,
well, if you'd asked my husband the same thing, he would have said the same thing. Here we are.
And here you are.
Yeah.
Well, welcome. Thanks for helping us get Episode 2, Season 5 started. Just a quick reminder to everyone to remember that we do have a special study for Advent. So gather your friends, gather your church folks, get a beer, a coffee, meet at the church, do whatever you like. But there will be discussion guides that come out with those 4 episodes, which is Advent After Dark, Unwrapping Bible Smut, which won't be as smutty as it sounds like it will be. But we'll talk about some interesting sexual stories in the Bible, as well as unpack some purity culture and other language around sexual ethics in the Bible. So it should be a fun study, a little racy for Advent, but it was requested, and I was like, sure, why not? If anyone's going to do it, it's going to be me.
That's awesome. So
today, Pastor Laura and I are going to talk about Luke 6, verses 20 through 31. For this is the All Saints Sunday, not Lectionary 31, it's the All Saints Sunday text for November 2nd, if you're going to a church that does All Saints Sunday. And this is a portion of Luke's Sermon on the Plain, to be somewhat contrasted to Matthew's version of the Sermon on the Mount. It's still... Scholars cannot agree if this was like the same sermon and they just kind of interpreted it differently, or if it was indeed 2 totally different sermons, as many preachers do kind of repeat themselves, especially if you're like a traveling preacher, right? Like going from place to place, you're going to give like a similar sermon in a different place. I don't know if that really matters, but we often consider them sort of like the same but different, and there are some differences, and we'll talk about those. But now I will read it. Luke 6, 20 to 31. Then Jesus looked up at his disciples and said, "Blessed are you who are poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you who are hungry now, for you will be filled. Blessed are you who weep now, for you will laugh. Blessed are you when people hate you, and when they exclude you, revile you, and defame you on account of the Son of Humanity. Rejoice on that day and leap for joy, for surely your reward is great in heaven, for that is how their ancestors treated the prophets. But woe to you who are rich, for you have received your consolation. Woe to you who are full now, for you will be hungry. Woe to you who are laughing now, for you will mourn and weep. Woe to you when all speak well of you, for that is how their ancestors treated the false prophets. But I say to you who are listening, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who mistreat you. If anyone strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also. And from anyone who takes away your coat, do not withhold even your shirt. Give to everyone who asks of you. And if anyone takes away what is yours, do not ask for it back again. Do to others as you would have them do to you." Word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. There's a lot there.
There is a lot there. I do not envy preachers on this day, because, I mean, this is raw Jesus saying it as straight as he possibly can. And it's very uncomfortable for us to hear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Isn't it right before this? Like Jesus has, he spends all night in prayer. And
Hmm.
so I feel like he has spent so much time, but he's like, his body's just fatigued. And so he's like, this is what it is.
This is
Like,
what
here
it
we
is.
are. Yeah.
So, a couple of the differences between Matt and Luke, right? So, this is Matthew's version is the Sermon on the Mount. This is the Sermon on the Plain, which flows with Lukean theology that we talked about last week with Pastor Allison. The idea of this leveling ground, of the valleys being raised, the bringing down the higher-ness, that like this leveling ground idea. So it really does flow with that for Luke's theology. And to understand a difference here of in Matthew, it's poor in spirit. Luke doesn't say that. This isn't a spiritual. Those who are poor, those who are destitute. Or in Matthew, it also says those that hunger for righteousness. Again, we don't have that same sort of spiritual language here. It is just those who hunger. That Jesus is addressing like real, human, tangible needs of the people.
Yeah. It's very much like the here and now. It's like, even when you go back and look at it, it's like a almost visceral, right? Those who are poor, like those who are hungry,
Mm-hmm.
those who are weeping, like all very like physical experiences.
Yes, exactly. And just as like a note to like remember that or like kind of keep that in your mind. I think a lot of people, when they hear this, they hear the Sermon on the Mount, and so they're going to a more spiritual side, just because like that one's so much more popular and shows up in the lectionary more than this does. But to remember that like it's not the same. That Jesus is addressing physical needs here, not spiritual needs. And so again, the audience, he addresses disciples, but this is sort of an expansive term of the disciples as a large crowd was gathering. So he is preaching to a large crowd here, not just the, quote, 12 disciples, but a larger crowd of disciples that have gathered. It says that a few verses before where we're not here.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, what hits you here?
Yeah, well, I think that first what you just noted, like who is Jesus talking to? Because if you just take our little section here, it's like Jesus looked up at his, his people, his 12 people, and says, blessed are you. But right, there's this crowd that's come, and so Jesus is saying this, knowing he's going to be overheard,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that there's people who are coming who this applies to. And when I was reading it, talked about the Greek using second person plural, which I don't really love to get into the grammar stuff, but it made me think of like blessed are y'all. Like this is inclusive of
I
people
say
who are.
that all the time. Yeah, so the beginning of chapter or blah, blah, in verse 17, so we started at 20, it says he came down with them and stood on a level place where a great crowd of his disciples and a great multitude of people from all Judea, Jerusalem, and the coasts of Tyre and Sidon, that they had come to hear him. So he's talking to a great crowd of
Crowd.
disciples.
Yeah, and knowing that they come from right all of those different places. And one of my favorite things about Luke's gospel is the way that it is so focused on who does God see.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like for Jesus saying this is like, I see you, like I see you in your suffering. I see you.
Mm.
Like we're not glossing over this. This is not like a mental struggle, right? That I see physical need here. Like
Yeah.
I see your suffering, and we're not going to gloss over that. And so I think that is truly is one of my favorite things about Luke's gospel, that it keeps challenging us through who Jesus is seeing, through who God is seeing, and who are we seeing, and
Mm-hmm.
what are the times that we just move to the other beatitudes, right? What are the times that we move away from it, and how can the gospel call us to continually check ourselves and understand who we are seeing today?
Yeah, and the physical needs, right?
Mm-hmm.
That Jesus very much focuses on those in a different way than and in here in the Gospel of
Mm-hmm.
Luke than we definitely experience in some of the other Gospels.
Mm-hmm.
So problem verses for me.
Mm-hmm.
22. Blessed are you when people hate you, when they exclude you, revile you, and defame you on the account of the Son of God, the Son of Man, the Son of humanity. This is one of those verses that I feel gets taken as like a justification. That we see a lot, like that sort of that Christian being better than everyone else kind of thing, right? Of sort of like, well, if people don't like what I have to say, it's, Jesus said that they would do that because I am doing, the word of Jesus.
So they just need to like listen. Yeah, this
As
like
sort of that
unhealthy
defense.
justification. Yeah.
And the reason, so like, I think it's beautiful, right? When we understand that, yeah, there's going to be people that are, that Jesus gives them that sort of, again, to his first century audience that are new, like this is a new thing that's coming up. And, as we've had these contrasts with like the Pharisees, right? That like they're against Jesus. And so this is what Jesus is addressing, right? Like these real people whom he knows are going to like eventually kill him, that like, and the disciples are afraid they're going to be killed too, and most of them are, right? That like, if this, this is what's going to happen, and he's sort of giving them that comfort, right? That like, you may suffer because of me, right? I know what I'm doing is going against the grain of the church of the day so much that they're going to come after me, and by following my teachings, they may come after you. And so to remember that, like, you're doing the right thing and that, God is going to take care of you.
Yeah, I think that Jesus is recognizing that he's bringing in such change, these ideas and pushing this, right? And systems don't like change.
No, they sure don't.
Right. And so then pushing back against that. So when Jesus is bringing out this message of like, blessed are those who are poor, those who are hungry, those who weep, like he's, like laying out that groundwork and saying like, there is going to be pushback. And this is going to be hard. Yeah.
Yeah. I just think how it gets used as sort of like a justification for how Christians act today can be somewhat problematic. And I don't know necessarily like what the solution that is either, right? Because we can say that from all sides,
Yeah. Yeah, like I think someone could say this, like, I mean, I think social media is so much, and like I've seen people on there, right, like giving a message, they would call it a gospel message. I don't hear gospel in it, but they're saying, well, this is, what, I'm going to get pushed back, but this is what I need to do, and this is what God's calling me to do. And it's hard to sit with that. It's coming from such a different perspective, but then knowing also that I can share a message that other people, I would feel is very gospel rooted, and yet would receive that pushback. So it's just,
and so to me, it's just one of those things that needs to like remain in its context, right? Of what Jesus is saying to the physical audience that he is speaking to. That this is not something to just pluck out of the Bible and use as your armor. That he is speaking to real people who are like really going to probably be killed.
Yeah. And it's in looking at that in the context, like the harshness, like of verse 22 and trying to lay out that context and then rejoice in the next verse. Like, I think that's something that's so, it's just interesting in this passage. And I think part of why it's so different from the other Beatitudes is there's just these juxtapositions of things that are so different. So like first we've got blessed are those who are hungry, those who are poor. And then, and starting in 24, we've got woe to those who are rich. And then in verse 22, blessed are those who are going to be reviled and hated and excluded. But then know that rejoicing is coming.
Yeah.
That there's,
that's a beautiful way to look at it too, right?
But that is I think that's one of the difficult things though too around, it's like the already, like Jesus lamenting and being honest about things that will happen. And then also we know that there's joy and rejoicing, and reward that he talks about that's coming. And yet isn't always there yet. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a hard tension.
Yeah. And still feeling that, right? Of what we do, especially as like pastors, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing I'm ever gonna say that's gonna make everyone happy.
Right.
And Pastor Eric Childers that I work with in
Mm-hmm.
Charleston, he says, sometimes the gospel brings comfort and sometimes it is agitating.
Mm-hmm.
And to remember that like, our job isn't to make you feel good on Sunday. Our job
Mm-hmm.
is to preach the gospel. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that can be agitating depending on
Mm-hmm.
where you sit in any given place, right?
Yeah, which is exactly what's happening in this text, right? The
Mm-hmm.
comfort of those first verses, and then also Jesus acknowledging, like, this message brings agitation, and with
Mm-hmm.
that comes pushback, and comes all of these things. And so recognizing that that's part of the process then and now.
I took a training a few years ago at the
Mm-hmm.
ELCA churchwide offices, and Bishop Yahel Curry, who is now our presiding bishop,
Mm-hmm.
was still just the bishop of Metro Chicago, and he said this, which I really always go back to. He said, "You need to always read the Bible, any text, right? Read it from the bottom up. Who is the lowest and
Mm-hmm.
least of these in that's being addressed here?" Right?
Mm-hmm.
What is their perspective? What is this saying to them?
Mm-hmm.
And so when we read this from the bottom up, right, like it is good news,
Mm-hmm.
right? The good news here is that
Yeah.
if you are in pain, if you are struggling, if you are hungry, if you are homeless, if you are experiencing any sort of like hate, persecution, blessed are you, right? That there's good
Yeah.
news that God loves you and God cares for you and God is going to make you whole.
Yeah. That God names you
Mm-hmm.
and sees you. Yeah.
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 But then that agitation, right? Woe to you who
Mm-hmm.
are rich.
Yeah.
Woe to you who are full now.
Full now.
Yeah. And so it again, like it's coming back to that Luke theme of like the leveling
Mm-hmm.
everyone out, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the part that should make us uncomfortable.
Yeah. I read this recently. I can't
Yeah.
remember which commentator said this, but if you read the gospel and you're not uncomfortable, you've
Mm.
missed something.
Mm.
Which I really, really loved, and I really can't remember. I read, so many
We
scholars
read
and
so many.
commentators all the time that I can't remember
Yeah.
which one said that, and I didn't write it down. But
Yeah.
I really like that. If you read the gospel and you're not uncomfortable, you've missed something.
Yeah. I love that, because that means that we can't just read scripture to justify our own viewpoints, right? That we can't miss ourselves and miss the ways that we are called
Mm-hmm.
to look more deeply inside ourselves. Like, we can't just stick with verses like 2021, and stick with those, and then not also look at 24, 25,
Yeah.
and see ourselves in that the ways that Jesus is calling out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now to 27 and 28. Love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you, and pray for those who mistreat you.
Yeah, when you talked about verses that you're uncomfortable with, there's mine.
Yeah.
I
Love
just
your enemies. What does this mean? Like, what is Jesus calling out here?
well, so I think it goes back to what you were saying about understanding Jesus's context. Like, who is Jesus talking to?
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder, like, it's if is he talking to those who are in power in the day? To, like, obviously it can be a message for everyone to hear, right? Do good to those who hate you, but you also, I guess where I get uncomfortable with it is can people read these verses and feel like they can't stand up for themselves?
Yeah. Well,
That's where
we'll
I
get
get
into
uncomfortable
that
with
in
it.
like the
Yeah.
next verses,
In
right?
the
The turn the
description.
other
Yeah.
cheek thing.
Yeah.
The love, I wonder, like in an actual, like historical, contextual place, right, that
Yeah.
he is starting to create, getting this big multitude of followers of people
Hmm.
that are going against the grain so much of the church of the day. I'm actually
Mm.
wondering if, like, it is to just mitigate violence, right?
Mm.
That, like, yes, they're doing this, yes, they're doing that, but we are not violent people.
Mm.
We
Kind of
pray
laying
for
the
those that
foundation of how
persecute
we're
us.
doing this. Yeah.
Yeah, that like we are not taking up arms against anyone, that that is not our response
Mm.
to what's happening, like physically
Yeah.
happening to us.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it makes sense with the way, yeah, that Jesus is setting this foundation for this new movement, and knowing what they might encounter, like saying like this is part of who we are. This is how
Mhm.
we're going to respond
And again, he
to the
knows that
turbulence.
violence is coming, right? And
Hmm.
is, I think, still in that sort of preparing them for that, right? Like
Hmm.
they're going to hate you, they're going to do these things. And remember, I'm saying to you who are listening, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you. If anyone
Hmm.
strikes you, do not strike back.
Yeah.
Right, like that's that I think that like that's really what he's getting at here is
Hmm.
where we're not violent people.
Hmm. Yeah.
That it's
You,
not that you're allowed. It's not saying, you know, be a doormat.
hmm.
It's saying there's a different way, and this isn't how
Hmm.
we don't, meet fire with fire.
Right. We're not doing eye for an eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, so that brings me to the next part, right? Like if anyone strikes you on
Hmm.
the cheek, offer the other also. Um, a good resource for this, and
Hmm.
it's a very short book, so I
Mm.
recommend it. I used to have a copy once upon a time, and all the times I've moved around all my theological books, I don't know where it went.
Yeah.
Which also I could have lent it to someone and they just never gave it back because that happens too, and I don't remember who I lent it to, and
Yeah.
it's gone. Anyways, Jesus and Nonviolence: A Third Way by Walter
Mm.
Wink is a really, really good resource that sort of unpacks this. He says
Mm.
there are three general responses to evil: passivity, violent opposition, and the third way of militant nonviolence articulated by Jesus.
Mm.
He explains, he unpacks the Matthew Gospel of Matthew's verse on the turn the other cheek speech that is in Matthew 5. You
Hmm.
know, that if anyone strikes you on the right cheek, to turn the left. So to strike you on the right cheek, someone would have to backhand you because it's a huge taboo to use your left hand, right? It's considered
Mm.
unclean. I'm a lefty, so yeah, sorry. We would have all struggled in the ancient world. But if someone were to backhand you, that's a sign of power over someone,
Mm.
to an inferior person, a slave, wife, children, etc. So by turning your other cheek and offering your left cheek to be slapped, this act robs the oppressor of the power to humiliate. The person who turns their other cheek essentially says, try again. Your first blow failed to achieve its intended effect. I deny you the power to humiliate me.
Wow. Wow.
So such act would create a huge difficulty for the striker. He cannot use his left hand because that's taboo. He can only use an open hand or his fist because that would make him an equal.
Mm. Wow. That's context matters, right?
Hmm.
Like
To
understanding the
use
history
to
matters.
use a
Yeah.
backhand would reinforce the caste system and institutional inequality. And so by offering the other
Mm.
cheek, you're forcing them to strike you in a way that would put you on equal playing field.
Yeah, I love that because like the way that I way I read that, right, is that like, if someone strikes one cheek, well, just hand them the other one too, right? But this is actually saying no. Like in doing that, you're saying, okay,
Hmm.
well, you're going to treat me as an equal, and like there's like a um, that's just a really powerful stance for that person to take. That you don't just pick that up from the verse, but really powerful in that history.
Yeah, to have the context with it.
Hmm.
Um, so, but it does two things, right? It's you're not striking back,
Hmm.
but it is addressing the person who is committing violence against you in a way that they have to recognize you as an equal human being.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so, in all of, sort of extrapolations of how then we do nonviolent justice, right, is
Hmm.
sort of that way. I think of like the sit-ins at the counters, right? You're not allowed to sit here. You're black. Well, I'm going to sit here anyways.
Yeah.
Not going to take up. I'm not going to act out. I'm not going to be violent, but I'm going to force you to recognize me as a human being.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what Jesus is getting at, right? Of the sort of,
Yeah.
in the eyes of God, we are all equal human beings. That Jesus is more than once addresses this caste system, right? This is not how the kingdom of God works.
Right.
It's coming back to that Lukean level playing field thing.
Yeah.
And so
And
if we understand, right, if our way of responding to violence is not violence, it's not passivity, it's not being a doormat, it's addressing it in a way that forces that person to recognize you as a human being.
yeah.
And I
going,
think, oh, sorry, you go ahead.
well, going back to like that Lucan like theme of how does God see? I think in those instances, it's like for the people doing the sit-ins at the counter, it's like you, for the people who are oppressing, right? Like that they are failing to see them as children of God, as image bearers of God, and yet for the people doing the sit-ins, it's saying, I believe this about myself, and like I know that I am God's beloved, and that God sees me, and that God doesn't intend for there to be this segregation and injustice, and so this is what I'm going to do. And so that it's rooted in again that like God's lifting up of humanity and the ways that humanity can fail in that, but the ways that in following that nonviolent path that you're asserting that still.
Yeah. And I think that there's something to be said about our current incredible divide in our country, right? That like everyone thinks that they're right to the point that like I don't even think we're having the same conversation anymore.
Yeah.
But what would it look like, right? To understand that we on all sides are beloved children of God, right?
Yeah.
And that it's not I'm right, you're wrong. It's that we are both loved. And what is a solution where we can see each other as human beings?
Yeah.
Because I feel like we fight violently a little differently, right? Use of social media, things like that. To the point that, like, do we see each other as these people, as equals, as beloved children of God?
Yeah, when it feels like too within the social media circles, but also outside of that, it's so easy to surround yourself with community that thinks exactly like you do, and to ignore voices that you don't want to hear, or it just creates it feels like just our awareness of what's happening is so different. Like I can think like even I was we haven't been in our neighborhood for that long, and I was walking down the street the other day, and there's two of the neighbors were talking, and I started to hear what they were talking about, and I was like, oh. And it just felt so different. But I realized, and I kind of reckoned with myself later, is like I just automatically put them into a box of like, when I heard what they were saying, felt like it did not align with my values, and just was like, nope. And I think that's very much a product of our culture. And I think Jesus might call us to do differently.
Yeah, I think so too. Which I think goes to sort of the last part, right? Do unto others as you would have them do to you. The quote golden rule, right? That what does that really mean, like deep down, right? Like I want those people to see me as human.
Yeah.
And worthy of value, worthy of God's love, and worthy of those same, equality that I want for everyone, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like I think that when I remember this, like this exact verse was like on the wall when I think it was my fifth grade classroom. I'm like remembering it. And it's so rooted. It can at first feel like it's so rooted in action. Like what would you do? Right. Like sharing something or whatever. But it is, you thinking about it now, like that is very much like, what are our beliefs, like our fundamental beliefs about people, and wanting to be seen and be heard, but also to extend that, that it just goes back to how does God see humanity, and then how are we trying to live into that too.
And I want to So the great Rabbi Hillel said this the last time Rabbi Evan Rapsky was on the podcast. He said it, but I want to quote it again because I think it's a good understanding.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "Whatever is hateful or distasteful to you, do not do to your fellow man. This is the entire Torah. The rest is commentary. Go learn." So to understand that also comes out of a Jewish perspective too, right?
Yeah.
That this isn't just Jesus, right? I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't inflict onto others what you would not want inflicted onto you.
Yeah, this is the entire Torah. The rest is commentary.
Yeah. And it's just interesting, that teaching and the ways that we have to go back to it so much, because sometimes our human inclinations can get in the way. I feel like when you're talking about like the book about having, there's the passivity, or there's the like violent confrontation, or there's this third way. And it reminded me when I was learning in chaplaincy about oftentimes when our brains, when we're scared, we feel like there's two choices.
Yeah.
Right. And we just tell ourselves it's a binary, pick one. Mm-hmm. And so it's either, hide or go at them. Right. Mm-hmm. And there's this third way, this rooted in such love and affirmation and strength. So it seems like, with that teaching about everything else is commentary, but the base is like, don't inflict harm that you would not want inflicted onto you. And looking back at these teachings and the ways that they help us to grow and understand that even though we might in our physical beings, right, have these impulses or get scared and want to just react, that there is a different way.
Yeah, I think of, so, when I preach, and I say this often, if you have some beef or are struggling with anything that I've said, please come talk to me. And I genuinely mean that, because I want to hear, I want to learn what your perspective is. I want to learn, where is it that this is coming from in you? And maybe you can learn where it's coming from in me, and we can get to a place where we understand each other.
Yeah. I think that's such a powerful offering, right? To see each other, to hear each other's stories, and to not just say like, well, I don't agree. But there's such understanding, and there's a richness that can come out of that too.
Yeah. We can both learn and grow together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And to me, that's also when we get to this third way, right? That's some of the things that Jesus is talking about, right? Like, again, it's that recognizing others as also human, as they also have experiences, they also have stories, they have reasons that they think that the way that they do. What happened in their lives that, got them where they are? And they can hear like, what happened in my life that got me where I am, right? That we all have valid stories and experiences. And
there's such a mutuality in sharing that.
Yeah. And
which is the leveling of the...
Yeah, and it's that leveling. You're right. Instead of you on that side, me on this side, or you above, or me above or below, right? Like, it's the leveling of coming and having a conversation. I recognize you are a child of God. You recognize that I'm a child of God. And having that conversation.
Yeah. Which is interesting. This just popped into my head about just like the history of All Saints Day, that initially it was like to celebrate martyrs. And then they eventually just expanded, like whole cloud of witnesses. We're lifting up everybody and all of their stories.
Yeah.
So just thinking about, like, it's not just particular people in the faith that we're lifting up, but everybody.
Yeah. Everyone has a valid place.
And that everyone's faith story, thinking about people who have died, like that it's not just the martyrs to uplift, but that every person's story, right? That there's things to learn from that. There's goodness that happened, and there's complexity in all of that. Yeah.
A fun text to unpack. I bet there'll be a lot more that questions good to come out of this, some deeper thoughts, and again, my blessings go out to everyone who is preaching on this on All Saints Sunday. Thank you, Pastor Laura, for joining us for this conversation. Remember, everyone, look for our Advent study, and you can learn more about the podcast at 10footpolepodcast.com, and find us on Facebook and Instagram at 10footpolepodcast, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And remember that the 10 Football Podcast is a ministry of the Delaware Maryland Synod. To learn more, go to demdsynod.org. Take care, everyone.